Welcome to another edition of Carnivore Bites. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman, along with Dr. Eric Lopkin. Dr. Lopkin, being older than you, I was only 9 years old in 1968 watching all this. My father's store was actually burnt out in the 68 riots in Hartford. He had a pharmacy. It seems like deja vu all over again in terms of America coming apart. Your view?
Oh, it really does. And you're not the first person to make the comparison to 1968. It's important to take a look at what went on then, how things have changed. The basic situation, though, is very much the same.
I mean, yes, I would agree. I mean, I think, and the other thing that really intrigues me is I thought, okay, 2 or 3 days of protest, but this thing has there's no end in sight. I mean, this is going on for a week. I mean, it does not help Trump.
Well, I think the protests are going to keep going on for a while. Fortunately, we seem to be seeing less of the rioting and looting, which is a good sign.
Absolutely.
I know for a fact there are peaceful protests planned at least until next week, probably further.
Fine. Pretty benign, yes.
Yes.
Politically, though,
let's be clear here. You know, the peaceful protests are generally done not just with the protesters. You're seeing local police actually participating, protecting the protesters, working with the protesters. It's just when outside groups start looting and rioting that the problems come.
Yes. How about the visuals, though? Every day, your average American sees what's going on. I mean, it is really reminiscent of 1968 or 65 in the Watts riots.
Oh, it certainly is.
So your assessment, you've always been really good at this. How do you think this plays out? We're talking about an election. You're talking about Biden, who has an easy slam dunk being the countervail to what's going on. I mean, that is, God, could you ask for a better part?
Yeah, I mean, I saw his speech yesterday, and I thought it was absolutely hysterical, given that just a week ago he had made the comment, the "you ain't black" comment. So he's going to be coming out more. I don't know that that's going to work well for him, because the more he talks, the more people realize he's not qualified.
Yeah, but you're giving him a platform that even, I have 2 cats. My cat Carl could do that. I mean, no, I'm dead serious. In other words, it's pretty hard to screw up. It works really in his favor, Dr. Lopkin. I mean, you can't really screw it. It's just the script is there.
It works in his favor. However, you have to take a look at politically how the country is split. The places where there are the most protests, where there have been the riots, these are parts of the country, for the most part, that we're going to go for Biden anyway. There are a few situations. Atlanta could go either way. Georgia certainly could still go for Trump.
Georgia definitely.
Yeah.
So.
But most of the places where the greatest amount of anger is are still states that would have gone Democratic anyway.
Actually, Dr. Lopkin, that is brilliant analysis, because it's already a slam dunk there. How does it play out in Peoria?
Right, exactly.
It might actually help Trump.
Exactly. The more things like this go on, the more they push on a division of the country. And by they, I mean Biden and his his staff. I'm not referring to the protesters or anything like that. The more Biden and the Democrats try to push that idea that it's a divided country, the more they're going to empower Trump's base.
That makes sense, but let's get back to what you just said. To me, and you look at international posts and input, America is a divided country. It's not the melting pot or the salad bowl that I was taught, in ninth grade. It's a divided country. It's not a cohesive society.
It's not. And the fact of the matter is, I don't know that it ever was. I remember learning in elementary school the Great American Melting Pot and how all the people came together. But I also remember back in the 90s when David Dinkins was first elected mayor of New York. He was the first African American mayor of New York. And he made speech after speech saying, no, it's not a melting pot, it's a mosaic. And while we're all in this same country, there are certain, you can tell the differences. There are differences between us. And he kept pushing. Now, New York during the Dinkins mayoralty was a very divided, he divided the city. There were riots. There was African American against Korean. It was a terrible time. And he actually wiped out so much of the progress that the previous mayor, Ed Koch, had made. What we're seeing,
it just concerns me, though, Dr. Lopkin, that it really goes to the soft underbelly of America that, China, Russia, other adversaries are looking at this and saying, this thing is just like basically ready to fall over.
Yeah, you also have to remember when you take a look at other countries, Russia in particular, China especially, even certain parts of Europe, you are looking at countries with primarily a very homogenous population. America has never been homogenous. We've always had, different sectors, different groups coming in, different groups settling in different places. So that's why, you have in New York and San Francisco and LA, you have Chinatown. Why? Because Chinese immigrants all migrated, together into these areas. In New York is the perfect example. Next to Chinatown, you have Little Italy. You have different neighborhoods that swing in different.
Most of these immigrant populations have shared values. There is a segment of the population, and I think it's the African American population, that have been fed victimization for so long that I don't know if assimilation is really even possible.
Well, here's the big difference. Italian Americans, Japanese, Chinese Americans, they came to America looking for opportunity, looking in the case of the Chinese, a lot of them originally came over because of work on the railroads. European immigrants came over to America looking for something better. African Americans didn't do that. They were brought here against their will. So going back, you have a completely different mindset.
No, without a doubt, but I still believe the Great Society put fuel on that fire.
Oh, absolutely.
And liberal ideology did as well.
Well, it's not just the Great Society. Going back all the way to the Emancipation Proclamation, promises were made that were never kept.
True.
So you have this anger building. Now, I have a problem when people get them going, oh, African Americans don't have the same opportunities. They don't have this. They don't have that. The fact of the matter is, if you take a look at American history, every new group of immigrants, whether they were white, Asian, African American, Hispanic, every new group was denied these opportunities. And they
Yeah,
all managed to overcome it, not by riots and looting, certainly, but by finding the opportunities. We have a group of people, Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson,
yeah, professional
who,
agitators.
yes, who have basically convinced people. And I know loads of African Americans who look at these two and just wish they would go away. So they're certainly not representative of the
But they
African
built
American.
fortunes on this.
Yes.
Fortunes. I mean,
They
Al
ha-
Sharpton has a TV show. He's worth millions. 20 years ago, he's worth nothing.
Yeah,
He
they
had
have
any
built
sweatpants going to
empires.
rallies.
Yeah, they have built empires on the backs of the African American people. When you talk about violence against African Americans, the protests have focused on what goes on with police, which is actually a very small percentage of people. But black on black violence is also huge. So we're talking about issues that it's not just black and white, pardon the pun. It's about how everybody views themselves and views the people they are dealing with.
I still get back to the Great Society. Uber liberalism has created a undercurrent of victimization.
Oh, that's definitely true, and not just in the African American community. The liberal mindset has basically tried to turn everybody into a victim that needs the government to help them. Why?
Yes,
Because liberals want big government. They want the power.
It's not altruistic. It's for their own benefit.
Yes.
So where do you think this all plays out, Dr. Lopkin?
Honestly, my crystal ball is fuzzy on this one.
So it is.
What I hope is going to happen, the rioters and looters will go away. The peaceful protests will continue for a while unabated, and the people behind the peaceful protests, the organizers, will actually start working towards what they can do during the election, how they can engage with the current leadership. There was a very disturbing episode a few days ago in Hartford where there was a protest on the steps of the police station. The police chief came out to talk to the protesters, and the protesters almost literally split the group in half. Half of them wanted to talk with the chief, hear what he had to say, and have their say. The other half just wanted to shout everybody down. And we've got to eliminate that element, because if we don't communicate, nothing good is going to come of this.
I absolutely agree with that. I don't know how this plays out. I do not think it helps Trump, because
it certainly doesn't help him.
No, because people they put the whole thing in one pot, and it's Corona, it's unemployment, it's 1968, deja vu all over again. That's just how it is.
Yeah, no, it does.
You had Trump at 60%. What do you think now?
It depends on how long this goes on. If it goes on, say, to September, October, that certainly drops. I would almost say it drops to 50-50. If, however, things quiet down over the summer, and by the end of the summer, by the time the conventions come around, the violence is gone, coronaviruses, then I keep him at 60%.
I would agree with that. I think there's two key elements. Three: protest, corona, and economy. Do you agree with that, Dr. Locke?
Yes. Right now, those are the three deciding factors. And
No question.
I think what you're going to see is that as time goes on, whichever one of that has the biggest impact around election time, that's going to be the issue that people vote on.
Fantastic. Now, we do have a great live show coming up on Friday, don't we, Dr. Locke?
Yes, we do. Friday at 4 o'clock. You can join us live at blogtalkradio.com/Carnivore Radio, where we will have the president of the Connecticut NAACP with us. We'll be discussing the issues behind the protests and hopefully have some ideas about how people can move forward.
Fantastic. And if our listeners would like to call in, how do they do that?
During the show, we'll be giving out the number, but if you want to participate and be part of the conversation on the Live Friday podcast, you could call in at 563-999-3693. And of course, we'll be repeating that number Friday at 4.
Awesome. Dr. Lopkin, any final thoughts?
I'm sending out the thought that I hope everybody stays safe, both from coronavirus and from the violence that's going on. And now is really the time to make a difference. Take action, but take peaceful, effective action.
Well said, Dr. Lopkin, and we'll get together again with our listeners on Friday.
See you then.
Take care.
You've been listening to Carnivore Bites, part of the Exvadio podcast network. You can catch us every week on carnivoreradio.com, exvadio.com/podcasts, the Apple Podcast Store, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and wherever you find podcasts.